The Wizard of Oz is a beloved classic, but behind the magic was a set full of danger, leaving some actors with scars that lasted a lifetime. Margaret Hamilton went through real pain playing the Wicked Witch of the West. Her green makeup had copper in it, which made her sick. Due to this, she couldn't eat properly and had to drink through a straw to avoid swallowing the toxic paint. And even after filming, her skin stayed green for months. But that wasn't the worst part. During the Munchkinland scene, a special effect went horribly wrong. The crew used real fire to make her disappear in a cloud of smoke. But instead of vanishing, she caught fire. Her hands and face were burned so badly that she suffered second and third-degree burns. The pain was unbearable, but she still wasn't safe. The copper in her makeup mixed with the burns, making them worse. The only way to remove the paint was to pour alcohol over her wounds. It was excruciating, but she had no choice. She needed weeks to recover, but Hollywood wasn't patient. As soon as she healed, they asked her to come back and finish the scene. She refused to use fire again, so they had to change the way it was filmed. Even after her burns healed, the role left scars in other ways. She was stuck playing witches for the rest of her career. No one wanted to cast her as anything else. So in a way, The Wizard of Oz made her famous, but it also trapped her. While you might think the lead's role would have been easy, well, not really. Judy Garland's time on The Wizard of Oz wasn't the dream it seemed. At 16, she should have been enjoying the biggest role of her career. Instead, she was trapped in a brutal cycle of exhaustion, control, and abuse. The studio didn't just push her to work hard, they pushed her beyond her limits. She was given no time to rest. If she was too tired, the solution wasn't a break. It was pills. Stimulants kept her awake and moving. When the day finally ended, she was given sleeping pills to force her body to shut down. Then, the cycle started all over again. No one questioned it. Judy didn't either. This was just how things were done. But even before The Wizard of Oz, Judy's life wasn't normal. Her mother had already introduced her to this toxic routine. As a child star, she was expected to perform constantly. If she struggled, there was always another pill to fix it. By the time she played Dorothy, addiction had already taken hold. It wasn't just about keeping her working. The studio wanted her to look a certain way. They put her on a strict diet, watching her every bite. Chicken soup, black coffee, and cigarettes. That was all she was allowed. If she gained weight, the executives would humiliate her. They called her a fat little pig with pigtails. She was already under immense pressure, but they still tore her down. Even the set wasn't a safe place. Director Victor Fleming had no patience for mistakes. When Judy laughed during a scene, he didn't just scold her, he slapped her. That was the reality she faced. No kindness, no protection, just cruelty, disguised as discipline. And after all this, she was paid just $500 a week. Meanwhile, her male co-stars earned 6 times that amount. She was the heart of the movie, but to Hollywood, she was the least important. Years later, Judy spoke about what really happened. She described the relentless schedule, the lack of sleep, and how the studio controlled their lives. They even had a hospital on set, not for emergencies, but to drug the actors into unconsciousness when they were too exhausted to continue. A few hours later, they were woken up with more stimulants and sent back to work. Judy never escaped what the studio did to her. The pills that kept her going as a teenager followed her into adulthood. No matter how hard she tried, she couldn't break free. In 1969, at just 47 years old, she died from an overdose. The little girl who dreamed of going over the rainbow never got the happy ending she deserved. 3.5, Betty Danko was a stunt double for the Wicked Witch, and her job was risky from the start. When Margaret Hamilton refused to do a stunt with a smoking broomstick, Betty took her place. It seemed simple. Just ride the broom while smoke poured out of it. But on the third try, the pipe inside the broom exploded. The force threw Betty off, sending her crashing to the ground. And the blast burned her legs so badly that she was rushed to the hospital. She stayed there for 11 days, suffering in pain. The burns never fully healed, leaving her legs permanently scarred. But the crew didn't seem to care. Their first thought wasn't Betty, it was the Wicked Witch's hat. Instead of helping her, they scrambled to find the missing prop. Betty was left to deal with the consequences on her own. Just another casualty of a film that put spectacle over safety. 4. Ray Bolger brought the Scarecrow to life, but the role left him with something that never went away. By the time The Wizard of Oz finished filming, his face was permanently marked. His mask, made from stiff latex, had to be glued on and peeled off every single day. It wasn't a smooth process. It was like ripping tape off his skin over and over again. The longer he wore it, the more damage it did. By the time the cameras stopped rolling, he noticed something strange. His face wasn't the same. Deep grooves, pressed into his skin from the tight mask, refused to fade. The pattern, especially around his mouth and chin, stayed with him for the rest of his life. But that was just the beginning. One of the film's most iconic scenes, when Dorothy and her friends collapse in the poppy field as snow falls, was actually a health hazard. Instead of using harmless fake snow, the studio covered them in gypsum, a material that looked like asbestos. That alone was dangerous, but his costume held something even worse. His scarecrow suit was designed to be fireproof, which seemed like a smart choice given the real flames used in the Wicked Witch's scenes. But the method they used was deadly. The costume was coated with real asbestos. At the time, no one understood the long-term risks. But asbestos is now known to cause serious illnesses, including cancer. Decades after filming, Ray was diagnosed with bladder cancer. He passed away in 1987 at 83. While there was no official link to his time on The Wizard of Oz, many believe the dangers he faced on set contributed to his illness. 5. The flying monkeys in The Wizard of Oz looked magical on screen, but behind the scenes, it was a different story. The actors were strapped into harnesses and lifted by piano wires to make them fly. But those wires weren't strong enough. Mid-scene, some of them snapped. The actors fell straight to the ground, some from dangerous heights. Instead of stopping production to fix the issue properly, the crew just made quick adjustments and kept going. Safety wasn't the priority. Getting the shot was. 6. Bert Lahr may not have suffered burns or falls, but playing the Cowardly Lion was still a miserable experience. His costume, made from real lion fur, was unbelievably heavy. Under the hot studio lights, it trapped heat like an oven. Every day, he sweated through the thick suit, but there was no escape. The costume wasn't designed for comfort, and worse, it was never properly cleaned. The fabric soaked up sweat and stayed damp, making it smell terrible. Yet, he had no choice but to wear it for hours at a time. 7. The actors playing the Munchkins were given just $50, less than half of what the dog made. These actors weren't just extras. They had to perform difficult scenes, wear uncomfortable costumes, and follow strict directions. Many were refugees from Germany, struggling to make a living in a country where opportunities were scarce. The studio knew this. Instead of treating them fairly, they used their desperation against them. 8. Even Toto, the beloved little dog, wasn't safe on the Wizard of Oz set. In one scene, a crew member wasn't paying attention and accidentally stepped on her. The tiny dog suffered a broken foot, leaving her in pain for weeks. While she recovered, a replacement dog was brought in, so filming wouldn't be delayed. But the accident was just another example of how careless and chaotic the production was. Safety was never the priority. Finishing the movie was. But while Toto's injury was bad, the pay situation was even more shocking. The dog earned $125 a week, a comfortable salary for the time. For Buddy Ebsen, The Wizard of Oz wasn't a dream come true. It was a nightmare that almost killed him. Originally cast as the Scarecrow, Buddy lost the role after a last-minute switch. He was reassigned to play the Tin Man, not knowing that decision would leave him with lasting damage. The trouble started with the makeup. To give him the Tin Man's metallic shine, the crew covered his skin in aluminum powder. But under the hot lights, the powder didn't just sit on his face, it became airborne. Every breath pulled the toxic dust into his lungs. The makeup had to be reapplied throughout the day, making the exposure even worse. At first, he felt cramps. Then, the pain grew unbearable, but he kept quiet, afraid that speaking up would get him fired. 10 days into filming, he woke up unable to breathe. His lungs had been coated in aluminum dust, starving his body of oxygen. He was rushed to the hospital, where he spent 2 weeks struggling to survive. Instead of waiting for him to recover, the studio replaced him. They brought in Jack Haley and dismissed Buddy's condition as an allergic reaction. Worse, they adjusted the makeup for his replacement, mixing the aluminum into a paste to make it safer. But even then, Jack Haley developed a serious eye infection. Buddy never fully healed. His lungs remained damaged for the rest of his life. He lost the role. But more than that, he lost the career he had worked so hard for. While The Wizard of Oz became a timeless classic, Buddy Ebsen was left behind, paying the price for a film that had already moved on without him. And that's just a glimpse of the hidden tragedies behind The Wizard of Oz. We'll be back soon with more untold stories.